Sekeres and Price for Friday, November 15th, 2024. And while usually we're at the Nation Network studio inside the historic Wall Center, today we're coming to you from the McLaren Grills Radio Row here at the Vancouver Convention Center East in the Grey Cuyp Family Zone. The festival is on here. McLaren Grills, the only officially licensed CFL barbecue grills. Go to McLarencustomgrills.com. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things, and we are surrounded by children, partner.
You want to know what my living room looked like 10 years ago? That's pretty much it.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of excitable children here in this space. It was incredible, Blake. I was at the entrance when they opened the doors, and one thing I'll say, field trips have gotten a lot better than when you and I were kids.
Yeah, I don't think we did this.
We always did something educational, right? A museum, city hall, a legislature. Yeah, exactly. How about what these kids get to go and do here today? And it's like sensory overload. I'm just loving watching the kids as they take in everything here at the space. You got the zip line. You got indoor and outdoor zip lines here down at Canada Place. You have these bouncy castles behind us, obstacle courses, slides. You got the punt, pass, and kicks station over here. Real goal posts. You can try your luck at field goals.
I haven't done that yet. I might want to kick a field goal.
Blake, there's a track over there. You can run a 40-yard dash if you're so inclined. I love what WestJet has done over here. The WestJet gate. A jugs machine shoots out a football and kids dive laterally and see if they can catch it.
Really?
By landing on a big mat. Yeah. No, so it is great fun here, and it is absolutely overrun with kids here from our community.
And the weather's cooperating.
Yeah, it really is.
It's brightened up in here.
I was outside a few minutes ago, and today always looked like the best weather day here at Grey Cuyp. And, you know, people have their layers on. They're accustomed to this. So a fantastic time being had by all. Let's get to our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Who is most to blame for the Canucks' poor home record? Coaches, players, you can vote at the Sekeres and Price X and YouTube channels. This after Rick Tocchet shoulders the blame last night in a blowout loss to the New York Islanders, dropping the Canucks home record to 2 wins, 3 regulation losses, 3 defeats beyond regulation. So they have 2 victories in 8 home games to date. It is the 3rd worst home mark in the entire NHL, ahead of only Chicago and the New York Islanders, last night's opponent.
And that's by points percentage. In terms of outright wins, they are tied for dead last.
Right. And they played 8 home games. The Islanders just 7 and Chicago just 6.
So they could be last. We'll see.
Yeah. That's how bad it has been at Rogers Arena this year. Now, that said, texting with a friend of mine last night, season ticket holder, said he has only been to 1 game this year, the Devils' blowout loss. He says he's still been able to sell his tickets at a profit, so there are still people who are quite willing to pay to go and see Vancouver Canucks hockey. But I got to say, partner, I was a little surprised that there was not more carryover in enthusiasm from the playoff run to the early home games this year.
From a fan perspective, you mean?
Well, from a team and a fan perspective. I mean, the team was talking about what a privilege it was to play at Rogers Arena last year in the playoffs and how great our fans were. And, they've needed this. They've been deserving this for so long. Last night, that is a lifeless effort. No intensity, no passion. And after the kid scores his first NHL goal, Lekkerimäki, and they drew nothing from that by way of
They don't surf
emotion.
That wave at all. They get out-physicaled. I'll use a football term.
It was Siplikov hit on Hughes. I mean, that is a body check, and that's a clean body check. He gets him exactly where he needs to. He thumps him.
And I don't need retribution there. But you would think that would be a smelling salt of, okay, you're going to hit our guy, I'm going to hit your guy.
Oh, hell yeah.
That did not happen.
Where was that from the Vancouver Canucks?
No, and that's why I think Rick Tocchet wanted to shoulder the blame and say that it's his fault and he has to get his team ready. I'll be consistent, and this is what got me the Baby Dragon moniker from Jason Botchford back in the day, is similar questions were asked about Alain Vigneault's home record and getting scored on first, which have been issues for this Vancouver Canucks team as well, getting scored on first. Last night it didn't happen finally, and they lost.
Yeah. First time in Calgary. Yeah.
But they are professional hockey players.
Mm-hmm.
It is their job. It's anybody's job to show up ready for work.
Mm-hmm.
What they do when they get there and how they organize strategy, that's a coach's job. But merely arriving ready to do the bare minimum of your job, that's on you, the player.
Yes.
It just is.
The crowds as well, though. And Elliot Friedman mentioned this was the past Saturday or the Saturday before. Quiet. Nobody is expecting a Stanley Cup playoff atmosphere. But the market has been a little blasé, I think, on this team. And I don't know if that we're so expectant now because we saw one playoff team that the regular season doesn't matter to us anymore. Let's fast forward to April sort of thing. But last year at this time, the energy, the crackle, the excitement was coming back to Rogers Arena. It was fun to go to the rink and watch the Canucks at home. I haven't been in the building yet this year for a game, but I don't get the sense that you still have that enthusiasm that we saw finally get back into the building and the fan base at this time last year.
We've always lamented the early road trip, Eastern road trip, that really subdues this market's early appetite for the team because they are out of sight, out of mind when they're playing at 4:00 for the last couple of weeks of October. It's sort of like a false launch. It gets you excited. Oh, Canucks hockey's here. And then they kind of disappear for 2.5 weeks if they go on a 6-game road trip in the East, especially. So I think that doesn't help. This is a small issue, but I don't know if you noticed in the game versus Calgary, who scored early in the second or early in the third. There was an opening.
Paterson early in the second.
Yeah, and
I don't think people were back from the concourse and in their seats.
Well, here's the thing, Matt.
So early.
The plebs were, the common fan was, that new president section.
Oh,
empty.
Yeah.
Go back and look at the celebration after that Paterson goal. The camera goes to the bench, just black.
Yeah.
Fans around the president section. Nobody from that president section has found their way back to their seats.
No, it's starting to remind of the Air Canada, or the old Air Canada Center, where everybody had their own little downstairs underneath the loges, and it was always empty at the start of a period. Now, that all said, I voted players here. It is almost always the players. Like, if I felt like Rick Tocchet and his staff had a bad system, weren't holding players accountable, we're trying to play a system that they didn't have the personnel to play, then I might put some blame on the head coach. But no. For me, it's the players. And a particular indictment last night, not just the kid, Lekkerimäki, scoring his first NHL goal in the first period, which you would have thought, the guys are happy for him, and let's go out and show some enthusiasm, some emotion, some energy. You had a beloved teammate coming back from cancer.
Yeah.
How many things have we heard here in the opening couple of months of this new hockey season about Dakota Joshua, the vibes he brings, how great it is to have him around the team. They brought him on road trips. He was like director of good vibes. He finally gets back into the lineup, and this has been a long time coming. And you go out and play like that. 5 shots through 2 periods. 24-5 is the shot clock through 2 periods. You got to be friggin' kidding me.
They were a team like that last night.
They sure were. Last chance to take advantage on specials on 2024 models at Surrey Mitsubishi. When you trade in a vehicle for a new 2024, Surrey Mitsubishi is going to give you $3,000 above market value for your trade. You can take advantage of rates as low as 1.9%. Get the extended warranty at no charge on the 2024 PHEVs, plus $1,000 credit towards winter tires. It was a little frosty in North Van this morning, a little frosty in Kids. Only while inventory lasts, and only at Surrey Mitsubishi, 13820 104th Avenue in Surrey, or online at surreymitsubishi.com.
If you want to ensure that your comments are read, super chats are open on YouTube. I'll read this one though. Breakaway Brooks. Shinny Pete's laissez-faire approach to the game is dangerously contagious. Well, Shinny Pete's
did he not grade out as one of the better Canucks last night?
Yeah,
or the best Canuck by the analytics,
both to the eye test and to the stats.
Yeah.
Elias Paterson's better play continued last night. He was okay.
Yeah, didn't get on the score sheet, but yes,
but he had a little Getty up and go, and very few others did. So I'm not gonna. I mean, yeah, I don't think your comment is correct. But what you saw was correct. I'll give you that. They were very laissez-faire. That's for sure. And you wonder, and these are the dangers for these games where you've got a couple of star players. I mean, they're two big offensive engines, or two of their biggest offensive engines, and Barzal and Duclair are not in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you get a workmanlike effort from the team, and they trapped it up. Shorty and Dave were talking about a very vintage New Jersey Devils like look to the team with Lou Lamoriello in charge, and it was a pretty thick neutral zone, tough to get through, but they did what they needed to do.
After those 2 goals in the second period and early in the second period, 14 seconds and 2 minutes and 10 seconds in, when you got the multi-goal leads, you're going to see that from a lot of hockey clubs in the NHL that they're going to play, especially on the road.
Lock it down.
Yeah, play more defensive and try and nurture home a 2-goal lead. Let's get to our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. The worst home loss yet. Perhaps the worst loss of Rick Tocchet's tenure as head coach. Home loss of Rick Tocchet's tenure. The reigning Jack Adams Award winner says he was outcoached and begins his media briefing by apologizing to the fans. Let's hear from Tocchet.
Don't ask me about individual players today, okay? No offense. I got to apologize to the fans. We're not playing good enough at home. It's on me. Guys played light tonight. I thought we were ready to go. We weren't. It's on me. I got to get this team to play harder in the first period. Spurts here and there, but not enough from a lot of guys. So got to go practice tomorrow and go right back to the drawing board. So that's really what it is. So don't ask me about individual players. I'm not going to answer that. You guys saw it. So thanks.
Mm-hmm. So a few things here. Number one, while I don't dispute there's some genuine emotion there from Rick Tocchet, this was very much calculated, right?
Yeah.
When you go to the podium and you say, don't ask me about an individual player, you have made the conscious decision that I'm going to do everything in these next 5 to 10 minutes to put the blame right here, to give the players a pass. Typically what happens, you get after them the next day in practice, and you know full well that that's a one-time card to play. That the next time something like that happens on home ice, it's going to be the players that bear the brunt of criticism, not the head coach using himself as a shield.
He also saves himself. We know that Rick Tocchet has been very honest at times with the media, and I think sometimes has walked a very narrow path of calling out players and merely reflecting on their games. And I think he wanted to save himself from himself and not say something that he would regret, because there were some really piss poor performances in that game.
Yeah. He also said he was outcoached by Patrick Wall. Let's hear from that.
I give Nylanders credit. They played a great, well-coached team tonight, and Patrick outcoached me tonight.
Don't often hear that admitted. And
No.
You almost have to have a recent Jack Adams to say that, because if your seat is anywhere near hot, you just increase the temperature on your own. Incidentally, thank you to Barry the Bandit from the Vancouver Bandits here, who has been mugging in the shot. He was behind the camera. He was dictating or directing.
He's a bandit after all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Barry's right behind us now too here at the Family Zone at the 111th Grey Cuyp in the Vancouver Convention Center East. I was hoping for the question, is that the first time you've been outcoached on home ice? Because when you're 2-3-3, Blake, Has he been losing the matchups on home ice? Has he been just getting it wrong with deployment in terms of who he's rolling out
Your last
against
change.
the opposition?
Your last change.
I mean,
so
that's the thing. Or is he just more comfortable saying, this is the deployment I'm going to use, as opposed to getting caught up and trying to line match because of last change? I don't know. But it's very odd to hear a head coach say that. And I would have loved more specifics in terms of what he was talking about, whether or not it was a matchup thing.
they were very loose.
Or otherwise.
They didn't close down gaps. They didn't rattle the glass at all. Like, you did not hear the game. And you need to hear the game, especially on home ice if you want to run a team out of your building.
Super quiet.
And again, the fact that Lekkerimäki gets a relatively early goal, like, that should have set the tone. Like, that should have sparked them.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't make sense.
Yeah. What are our friends at Yellow Dog and Neighborhood up to this week? I know I will be tipping some here this weekend. It is the Grey Cuyp.
Is Barry a Fox, do you think?
I can look that up for you.
I think he's a Fox.
Okay.
Very similar to the world famous Sea Fox, if memory serves. And Yellow Dog is teaming up with Jeff O'Neill Show to give you one of the greatest gifts of all this holiday season, Mr. Fox's Fantastic Box. It's a new mix pack, including a brand new collaboration. Jingle Juice Tangerine Blonde Ale. Intrigued? And Fa La 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 Lager will keep you refreshed all holiday season and wishing the festivities would last just a little bit longer. Did I get all the laws? Fa La 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 Lager. I did nail it. Yeah.
Your Fa La 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 was pretty good. Almost as good as my Parappa Pum Pum.
Oh.
Almost that season.
Parappa Pum Plum Sour. That's what they should have done.
It's not half bad.
Right? Mike Hawkill, I hope you're listening.
I mean, it sure looks like a fox. Anyways. Moving right along.
Foxes are the sneaky things. He's a bandit.
Yep,
It stands to reason. Stands to reason.
Adam Kierzenblatt from the Hockey News with this ditty. Last season, the Canucks gave up 5 or more goals on home ice, but twice. This season, 4 of the 8 home games.
4!
They've given up 5 or more.
I was going to say 3, 4. Unbelievable. And you do wonder, like, I wonder about this.
Their team save percentage is worst on home ice. Their goals against average, I believe, is 31st of 32 teams on home ice.
So, Matt, imagine this trend continues. Imagine they are a road juggernaut to the point where they maintain a decent status in their division. Let's say they're third in the division a month and a half from now.
Mm-hmm.
But their home record continues at this pace as well. If you're a fan of that team, it's still an overall decent team.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't win many home games. Does it affect attendance? Because you're going to the playoffs, you're in a playoff spot, everything's kind of hunky-dory standings-wise, which is where this team is at right now. 8-4-3 is not terrible.
Last year, by this time, it had become an insatiable appetite for tickets again.
Yeah.
For years, their season ticket subscribers would tell you they could barely give away the early week, midweek game, particularly if it was a lousy opponent or an opponent that just wasn't a gate draw. Last year, right around here, that all changed. They were winning, and you were back to, not necessarily back to levels of the big sellout streak and the glory years of 2010, 2011. But there was a really hearty demand for tickets. I'll go with what my friend Mike told me yesterday, that he's been able to sell all his seats for a profit this year. I still think you're going to have some of that here, let's say through the Christmas season.
Yeah,
where, of course, they're usually a hot ticket through the Christmas season, right? Because, kids' presents and people have more time off. I would be interested, but they are pushing tickets on a game-to-game basis.
Well, there's tickets available for every game.
Yeah.
Every game.
Now, the other thing, the way tickets are sold and distributed has changed. And I would be quite interested to see if what we see in other sports, what we particularly with big single one-off events, whereby, and concerts, for example, whereby like the promoter buys up all the tickets and then puts them on the resale market. I wonder whether that sort of thing is going on with professional sports teams in North America. What I would say is if the home record continues to stink, I do think there will come a point in January where a lot of the enthusiasm, a lot of the demand that we've seen for a year now starts to seep away. Yes.
There's the casual fan who says, I'm going to go to 4 games this year. But if he goes to 2, he or she goes to 2 games, and they're both losses, and they're like blowout losses, which have been a quartet of them. And you've seen all the other home losses. Are you as inspired to finish off your plan of going to 4 games?
Probably not. I think there's some economic concerns here too, as well. An incredibly expensive city to live in at a time when the economy is not great. The other thing too, Blake, is as we know, on a game-to-game, year-to-year basis, you have priced out a significant portion of the community right off the jump. People unable to afford tickets, or certainly unable to afford the night out for tickets because it's going to cost you money to park, to eat, whatever extra costs you have on top of the actual ticket itself. So, this is a affluent market. I think the city's rich people have basically helped keep attendance afloat here. Of course, you're also selling a lot of tickets to corporations that have the ability to write it off. So, look, I don't fear for thousands of empty seats at Rogers Arena. What I do think you're going to see, though, is if this continues, is that atmosphere that was just missing something that we dealt with for years when the team was losing. Let's get to a couple other things here, John.
We should just mention, with the record being as it is, the rest of this homestand is not crazy. 2 losing teams coming up this weekend in Chicago and Nashville. Finishes on a tough note versus the Rangers. The road trip that follows, not Murderers Row.
No.
Ottawa, Boston, Pittsburgh, Buffalo.
No.
So certainly from the home record, you got 2 wins available to you this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think you got to get them now. After dropping the game to the Oilers in the fashion you dropped it, after dropping this Islanders game, which again, I'm not sure it was a sitter, but they're missing 2 of their better offensive players. It's a mediocre team to begin with. You get in the backup goaltender too, right?
Yeah, it's just
that was the other thing. You get in the backup goaltender.
Yeah.
Let's spend a minute on Lekkerimäki because if there was a highlight for the Vancouver Canucks last night, it was the first NHL goal for the first rounder from 2022, and that is a shooter's goal.
Yeah.
On your off wing, one-timing a pass. That's a terrific goal for Lekkerimäki.
93.38 miles per hour.
It's one of the you see a goal like that, and you begin to understand why they called him up so soon here after just 13 games of AHL experience. If he can convert even a percentage of those sorts of chances, he will be a Vancouver Canuck full time, because that is a gift and that is a skill that not a lot of people possess. Now, Tocchet has talked about how, look, he's got some leash here. That's a little bit different than a Nils Höglander or somebody else. Tocchet talked about he's conscientious enough that he's in the proper spot, but he also said it's not like we're asking him to be the third guy back. So, it's not like the defensive responsibility on Lekkerimäki is going to be high here. If anybody can get away with that right now, it's Lekkerimäki. They're going to have some patience with him and play the long game.
I've really been watching him away from the puck to see if he plays himself out of this lineup and back to Abbotsford, and to see how justified that'll be if and when that happens. And it's pretty good. There's a few bits of jitteriness, a few moments where I see him thinking, "Oh crap, do I bother pushing forward? Should I be safe here?" But I think his shot, and as I said, his shot, that top speed of 93.3, that was his fastest shot in the NHL. It's in the 96th percentile of all shooters in the NHL this season.
And that's without being able to lean into it.
And his average in these 2 games since he's been called up is 63.81. That puts him in the 90th percentile.
Yeah.
It's still smallish sample size, obviously, but he's been shooting.
The scouting report was gifted shooter, and through 2 games, we have absolutely seen that.
And Matt, that's the difference between him and a guy like a Nils Höglander.
Right.
God bless him. And Natu Ratu, God bless them.
And they don't have that raw skill. That's why they're second rounders, not first rounders.
But they don't even have that single attribute where you're like, I know he's got a few faults, but the blah is so extraordinary.
So
we have to keep him in. You have that with Lekkerimäki.
Good call. Our old friend Bo, very good night. Just following up on yesterday's show. 2 assists, 2 penalties drawn.
Yeah.
Got 5 points in 4 career games now against Vancouver. That's the best points per game average against any opponent in the NHL for Bo Horvat. Something tells me you're going to see Bo Horvat's best just about every time he plays the Canucks from here until the end of his career.
He did it pretty low key though. Like it wasn't flashy. Like it wasn't like he was extra physical or anything like that. Like he was just kind of there contributing and made it happen. That JG Pajot that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
He reared his head too, didn't he?
Yeah, right shot center.
Yeah.
Might work down the road. Okay, so we've killed them for the home record and the performance last night. Okay. Deserving of
tick the box.
That criticism. Let's explore a little further. Brock Besser missed the 3rd straight game. You'll remember last year, and Jeff had the stat that of last season, none of the team's top 7 scorers missed more than 2 games. So you already got an injury absence for one of your top scorers. That is longer than any absence at any time last year.
Yeah.
We said at the beginning of the year, they'd be awfully lucky to have that sort of health for a second straight season. Miller's playing through something, and Miller was terrible last night. But Miller has been playing through something. That much is clear. Preseason, missed all of it except for 1 game. 1 point wasn't taking faceoffs. The other night gets hit in the left hand, wrist, whatever. So there's something there with Miller to be sure. Connor Garland leaves the game momentarily last night, goes up the tunnel. He comes back, but oftentimes they finish games on adrenaline. We'll see if anything is lingering there with Connor Garland going forward. Plus all the new guys, and we had the discussion last week, 2 weeks ago. Were we patient enough? Was it going to take 20, 25 games or so? When you put all that together, it may not justify the home record, but does it explain it a little bit?
No, and I'll tell you why. Goal scoring is not the huge issue for them. It's an issue. Like they're not scoring at the rate they did last year, but last year was crazy. They have scored enough goals this year to win games often. It is clearly the defending that is the issue. And it's the defending, not the goaltending.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Lankinen was fine last night. In fact, he was very good at times. His goals saved above expected. I didn't look at it for this game. I'm sure it was fine. I think it was very good. Mm-hmm. The chances that the Vancouver Canucks were giving to the Islanders, like how many goals were just? You heard Shorty say it. Well, that was easy, wasn't it? Like they made it. It was a hot knife through butter.
The Anders Lee goal, I'm not sure anybody broke a sweat on the New York Islanders on that shift.
Nor the Canucks back check.
It was clear sailing through the neutral zone into the offensive zone to dangerous areas. Multiple players were just allowed to go and do what they pleased.
And there was a few glorious saves by Lankinen where he was hung out to dry and he made the save. So,
he made that save was a second period on the 2-on-1, like 4 minutes remaining.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, wow. That could be a big save at this stage because you're not out of this game yet. And then they just did sweep nothing.
So
from that point forward.
I mean, Miller has some defensive onus on him. Yes. Besser, not so much. So I don't know that is an excuse enough for me to say, okay, there's a big chunk of the reason why. I think the guys that are in the lineup right now, more than capable of playing good enough defensive hockey to fix what is ailing them right now. They're certainly scoring enough goals to win hockey games.
Well, let's get to Jeff Paterson there, our Canucks reporter, the host of Rink-Wide Vancouver, who is out at UBC taking in this hard practice that Rick Tocchet promised. First of all, Jeff, you drew the short straw, buddy. We got bouncy castles here when we're done this season.
More jump already looking in on this program in the bouncy castle than I saw over 60 minutes from the Canucks last night.
That's very good. It's very good.
It's inexplicable. Like a bad period, sure. You get out of the first period in a 1-1 tie, like hit reset and come out and be a whole lot better.
Right.
But like guys in person, like it looked bad on TV. I know in person that second period just absolutely skating in mud. It made no sense. It defied logic. And unfortunately, we've seen that play out. The Oilers game, the Devils game, all in front of the paying customers. So, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot that doesn't add up with this group right now. The record is fine. No issues with the record of 8-4-3. But the way they've achieved it just doesn't look sustainable to me.
It was a period in a game that reminded me of yesteryear.
It did.
The Canucks had just virtually no talent, and so you saw a lot of those sorts of periods. They
Magna and Chaput were not out there.
Yeah, exactly. They have a whole lot more talent now, which agree with Jeff. Inexplicable. And on a night where Dakota Joshua was coming back, where Lekkerimäki scores early, Jeff, like, you had all these potential good vibes rippling through your bench, and just nothing. No emotion, no intensity, no passion.
Well, and
it was absolutely dreadful.
Like, the building was buzzing when Lekkerimäki scores, of course. First NHL goal, scores with the one-timer, like all these things. But as the period unfolds, the Canucks are stuck on 2 shots on goal up until like the final 90 seconds when Phil Hronek shot from his own side of center and, bumps the total to 3 shots on goal for the period. It's only 1-1, but just the process that the coach always talks about, you could feel the process sort of slipping away from the Vancouver Canucks. And then unfortunately, it didn't get any better in that second period of play.
No, you're there at practice at UBC today, the Arkells concert at Rogers Arena, so it bumps them again. What have you seen at practice? And tell me about Tocchet's disposition a day after.
Yeah, not surprised that pretty intense practice. There was no intensity in the game, so if you're not going to show it in the game, you better show it in practice. And Rick Tocchet talks about his staples. One of his staples when he wants his guys to work in a battle is the small area games where he just pulls the net basically close to the boards, cuts the ice down to a small chunk. Started 1-on-1, and there were some hellacious battles. And then they introduced extra players, so it became 2-on-2. And puck becomes secondary sometimes. It's just kind of like bumper. Yeah. It's like bumper cars out there to get their motors running. JT Miller with a big hit on Noah Juleson along the side boards. We know earlier in the year, JT Miller and Elias Paterson got into it. There was nothing like that. It was just Miller stepped into Juleson and separated him from the puck. But the boards rattled. There were a few reactions from the people that were watching out here at UBC. Of note, guys, the fact that Kevin Lankinen appears just to be getting a full day off. There's only 2 goaltenders on the ice out here. Artur Silovs was out early, working with Marco Terenius and a couple of the skaters, giving every indication of a guy that's probably going to get the net on Saturday against the Blackhawks. And I just think after 6 straight starts and a few more goals than he would have liked, getting past him, maybe some fatigue catching up. We'll find out from the coach afterwards, but the indication talking to the staffers around here was that, this is just a maintenance day for Kevin Lankinen, who has probably earned this, right, given the way that he's played to this point in the season. No Vinny Desharnais is the other guy that's absent from practice, so we'll find out about that one from the coach as well.
I'm glad to hear Lekkerimäki and Ratu are both still there because, and who knows what we'll see what happens later on this afternoon, but there's a lot of coaches that just when things get that bad, their reflexive thing is, okay, the young players are out. They aren't detailed enough. They're out of the line. What do you think ultimately, Rick Tocchet? I mean, it was so rampant. It's hardly the young players' fault, but sometimes it's a good scapegoat. What do you think Tocchet does with the 2 kids?
Yeah, I wondered if we would see any sort of movement. You've got a guy like Nils Aman who is rarely the answer, but he has played NHL center, and Aatu Räty has struggled here the last couple of games. So they can ship Räty down. It was his 22nd birthday last night against the team that drafted him. Again, another guy, you thought maybe he would have a little extra step. Didn't happen for him last night. I think as long as he's waiver exempt, you may as well get him time in the American Hockey League and continue to build him and develop him if it's not happening for him at the top of the ladder. So he's here, and that would give our indication that he's going to stay through the weekend. But again, with Abbotsford just down the road, I guess they could swap some players in and out. Look, and I like the way Tocchet handled postgame last night with the statement, and he said, I'm not taking questions about individual players. This is about the collective. This is about me as the coach. And so we didn't really get his thoughts on, even Lekkerimäki scoring his first NHL goal. Tocchet didn't want to go down that road. So, I'm not surprised that there are a few subtle changes here at practice. And when you're a coach and you've got Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua available to you, it hasn't taken long, obviously, to go back to the security blanket of those two with Teddy Bluger. But then that means there has to be some other moving parts. Kiefer Sherwood getting bumped higher in the lineup than he's probably ideally suited to. But if it's about doing the things that he's done here all season long and trying to get in on the forecheck and separate guys from the puck and get the puck to Paterson and DeBrusque, I'm all right with it for a game or two, but I don't think Kiefer Sherwood in your top six is a long-term play. And of course, all of this is still without Brock Besser anywhere. I was out early, thought hopefully maybe we'd see a Besser sighting on the ice, but no sign of Brock Besser here now a week plus a day since the head injury.
Well, a couple of things here. Number one, Abbotsford is at home tonight. If Ratu was going down, I think he would have gone down today, if not to play in the game, at least for the cap accrual. You're not hearing me? There we go. At least for the cap accrual. Secondly, it's an interesting weekend for the goaltending, which we'll get into. Besser was seen yesterday at the arena speaking with Bo Horvat, Jeff, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, and I tweeted out the fact that he was in sweats, and people were like, "What's with the fashion review?" It was significant to me because he looked like he was either coming from or going to some sort of workout. He was in workout wear. And yeah, he and Bo just off to the side in the hallway outside of the Islanders locker room catching up. But that was the first time I'd seen Brock around the arena since the headshot. So again, we're all grasping for any sort of update. The coach his words were twisted a little earlier in the week, and he seems to really have stopped providing any kind of update with Besser. So just to see him around the rink and in workout wear at least seemed to me to be a step in the right direction at the very least.
On the goaltending front, and Blake and I went through the exercise yesterday. First of all, ironically, these are Kevin Lankinen's two former teams in Chicago and Nashville. Of course, Artur Shilovs has success against the Predators based on the playoff series last year. But I do think you want Lankinen playing that Tuesday game against the Rangers. I mean, that's big boy hockey. That's the toughest opponent here. So you think it's going to be Shilovs against Chicago and Lankinen against Nashville? Is that?
I do. I think Lankinen has started 6 in a row. That just feels like a demarcation point for anybody in the National Hockey League. When you're asking a starter to go more than 6 straight, you're trying to get ahead of that drop off in his performance. And I'm not faulting him because you guys talked about some of the saves that he made in the second period last night. It could have been a whole lot worse, which is hard to actually wrap your head around, but it could have been worse for the Canucks. And yeah, the Oilers game the other night when he got the hook, there were a couple of leaky ones there that we just haven't seen from Lankinen. It just feels like a Shilovs start, and I think they're going to split them regardless. The Chicago Blackhawks guys have scored 1 goal in regulation in each of their last 4 games. They have scored more than 3 goals in a hockey game twice in the last dozen. They don't score. And so when you look at, I know Nashville's had its struggles. I think they've made a few strides here of late. I think they're the better opponent. And obviously Lankinen, first look at his most recent former team. I get the playoff backstory there. I go Shilovs against the Blackhawks and Lankinen against the Predators. And I do think just based on practice and the fact that they're giving, somebody here said, they're giving Lankinen a day off. They're not going to run them both games this weekend, are they? I don't think they would do that. I think
that would be a lot.
I think you see Artur Shilovs on Saturday night.
What'd you think of Joshua, and does reuniting him with Garland already here at practice and indicate that they're going to run that through the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Rick Tocchet's a guy that plays the way that he practices, so I think that what you're seeing here is the way that they will line up to start against the Blackhawks, and nothing says that they have to stick with it if it's not working. I think Joshua, quite honestly, was what I expected. It was a slow return to the lineup. Yeah, he had 4 hits, takes a penalty, didn't have a shot on goal, wasn't much of a factor, didn't get penalty killing time. I wasn't expecting that nearly going. So, get the first one out of the way, just work a little bit of rust off. It'll only get better from here. But yeah, I mean, like so many of his teammates, there was just a whole lot more needed last night in that hockey game. But you just hope that his mere presence, and first shift, fans responded. It's a change on the fly, so it wasn't like he came out during a stoppage and they could put him up on the jumbotron. But savvy hockey market, they recognized his first shift, a pretty good ovation there. again, you're just looking for anything that could have sort of provided a little more boost in the building, but just did not happen as that game got away from them. So I'm sure he's happy to have the first one out of the way and just kind of build on it and get better from here.
Any concerns on Danton Heinen at this point, who was supposed to be maybe a Joshua 2.0 and his low man on the ice time?
Yeah, and now drop down to what is essentially the fourth line here at practice with Ratu and Höglander. So we've seen him play higher in the lineup, and now he's down on the fourth line. Had the nice night in Chicago, but only has the one goal since then. And I know that you're not looking for a ton of offense from him, but one of the stories around this group in the early going and part of the 8 wins has been production and depth scoring, and he's certainly a part of that. So, yeah, I mean, a little quieter, but of the 2 guys that came over from Boston in the offseason, I guess 3 with Forbert, I'm looking at the other guy. 3 goals for Jake DeBrusk, all on the California road trip. Hasn't scored a goal in 8 home games now. And more than that, when Rick Tocchet last night post-game talked about guys playing light, I imagined that it wasn't directed entirely at Jake DeBrusk, but I think he would be in the group. They're not much of a presence. Like, forget the goals. The goals will come if this guy is shooting the puck, if he's in dangerous areas. It's just remarkably quiet around him, aside from the 3 in a row. And I know people said, oh, he's a streaky scorer. Well, it's time to get that streak moving in the right direction again, because 3 goals through 15 games, he's going to have to score at a 30-goal pace the rest of the way just to be a 25-goal scorer for the Vancouver Canucks.
I want to ask you a few here very quickly, Jeff, but Miller was awful last night, but we believe he's playing through something here.
Yeah, I mean, he said as much to Ian McIntyre the other day in a piece at Sportsnet. He doesn't look himself, and I don't think he'd ever accuse JT Miller when he's on his game of being light or playing light, but I think he's part of the mix right now. There just isn't a whole lot of a physical presence to his game. He looked more like himself on Tuesday against Calgary, and I thought, okay, that's encouraging, step in the right direction, but like just about everybody else across the board, last night was a big step back.
We're 2 weeks out from when he made the Zadorov trade last year, Jeff. So I do wonder if that gets on our radar here now. But, I mean, I think you'd argue the defense score has been a lot worse this year than it was last year at this time.
Can't force it, but yeah, the answer is yes.
Philip Hronek, even if they wanted him to, quote-unquote, anchor his own pair, do you believe he's playing well enough to anchor his own pair at this stage?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. Certainly didn't look good on, they all ran together, but was it the 4-1 goal, the actual 4-1 goal? Because there was the 4-1 goal that came off the board that nobody looked good on either.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, Bo drives wide and beats Quinn Hughes, and then centering pass, and Hronek, with his back to the play, is facing his own net, just always talking about picking up the man and, the guts of the ice. Nobody was minding the guts of the ice last night. So, yeah, I mean, when Quinn and Hronek have been paired together, the underlying numbers show that's when the Canucks control play. They tilt the ice. But a lot of that obviously has been on the back of the terrific start to the season for Quinn Hughes. So it is hard to separate the two. But, yeah, I mean, there have been a few moments along the way where you just want more. You want more from Hronek. You're paying him $7.25 now. You'd like a little more offense. I know he got an assist on the Lekkerimäki goal, but you'd like to see a little bit more. He's got the big shot that he has trouble harnessing. It's a little wild. He's got to find a way to get it on net. So I think there are certainly areas there. And then defensively, he's got to be better, like so many of them. Carson Soucy has to be better. Tyler Myers struggled. It's going to be tough for this team to have success. Guys, that was the Islanders. Like, they had 6 wins in 16 games coming in. They're without Barzell. They're without Duclair. Like, there were a lot of reasons why the Islanders shouldn't have been able to win that hockey game. Go with a backup goaltender, even if it's a guy that's been around the National Hockey League. Like, there were a lot of things in the Canucks' favor heading into the hockey game, and they just threw up all over themselves. So, as I say quite often with you, with this start to the schedule, not just the spacing, but the quality of opponent, like, there are better teams out there. At some point, they're going to see Winnipeg. They're going to see Vegas. They're going to see Dallas. You talked about the Rangers coming in on Tuesday. Like, that'll be a good test. And if they play like they did last night, they'll get run out of the rink again. That's just a matter of fact. Like, they have to figure this thing out. And maybe a weekend with back-to-back games against the Blackhawks and the Predators is what they need. But in saying that, this is the NHL. And if you don't perform, even the lower lights can rise up and beat you, and the Canucks have already seen that a couple times this season.
It's a weird team right now. It's
Yeah.
a weird team.
Jeff, we know you got to run, and we know you're totally adverse to traffic, so I don't think we're going to see you down here at the Family Zone at Grey Cuyp. But zip lines indoors or outdoors, bouncy castles, kick a field goal, run a 40. What would be the J-Pad activity down here at the Fan Fest?
You don't want to see me run the 40, that's for damn sure. Might
We're
be 40.
worried about old guys and hamstrings over there.
Might be 40 minutes. I could never pass up a bouncy castle. As a
Right.
kid,
There you go.
I think I'm taking the bouncy castle all day.
All right. Get over to availability. Thanks for this, Jeff. We'll be listening to Rink Wide all weekend. Thank you.
All right. Have a great Grey Cup weekend, guys, and we'll catch up early next week.
That is Jeff Paterson, our Canucks
Yeah, busy
reporter.
weekend for him with the back-to-backs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, boy, it's just an absolutely hectic weekend here. We talked about what we got going on football-wise here. There's a couple of big basketball games over at the Point Grey campus, UBC.
Again,
Talk about those later.
Again, just a weird team right now, the Canucks are, in that, as we've all pointed out, the record is not terrible, but the how in which they are losing is remarkable.
No, and if you're a process guy, and we know Rick Tocchet is a process guy, I think it eats away at you a little bit because you sit there and you go, okay, the lessons that are coming through here is we don't have to be process oriented and still have success. And so when a loss like yesterday happens, I'm sure he's furious. Again, he completely, in my view, calculated that post game and decided one more time, I'm going to shoulder the blame here. And then from here on out, it's going to be on the players.
Why isn't JT Miller taking a maintenance day? If he's playing through something, does a maintenance day not help him?
I've been a little bit surprised that he hasn't taken maintenance. It's like Quinn had a maintenance day the other day.
Like, I know there's a manliness to it. I don't take maintenance.
Well,
if you're
it's
playing
a
through something,
habits thing too, and
yeah,
an intensity thing, and all those things as well. I think JT knows Rick doesn't like when players miss practice, and I think
Rick is a bit more concerned though about JT Miller being JT Miller, and if missing practice helps him get there, then do it.
Yeah, and I understand habits and all that, but I would like to think we're close to being in a good spot there. And then secondly, 2 points are not available at practice.
No, we talk about practice.
Yeah. Let me ask you the Roenick question. What do you think of him these days? And if they wanted him, if they did want to split Hughes and Roenick, do you think he'd be capable of anchoring his own pair and giving the Canucks the lion's share of the shots and chances?
So
in that role?
It's an interesting storyline because I've also been paying attention to him a little bit of late. And remember the second half of last year, one of our biggest criticism was, why aren't you shooting the puck anymore?
Yeah.
So I've been looking at
bomb.
him. He is shooting the puck. I'm watching him shoot the puck to no effect. And then there are defensive breakdowns as well. When he passed to nobody on an open wing, he thought he was just inside his own blue line. The play was moving forward, and he whips around a backhand pass to nobody. Nobody's there. Like, I don't know. So right now, I would insulate him and keep him with Quinn rather than put or I don't know. Maybe it's a smelling salt for him. If you give him his own pair and he all of a sudden knows, oh shit, I got to tighten up here a little bit and be a better player. But it doesn't look good for him right now.
I think you're going to see Ratu get one last chance against Chicago on Saturday because you have the back-to-backs. I think it's probably wise to see if you can get fresh legs in there on Sunday. The question that I have is, would it be Ratu down and Baines up and we're moving Pius Suter back to center ice? Or do you think it would be a straight Nils Oman for Ratu swap?
They think the Oman is a safe option if unspectacular, so they would probably do that for sure. I don't know about anything else. I don't know that you bother with Lekkerimäki right now, given that he's doing what he's supposed to do. And the other thing is, when it's a total team loss and everybody's playing like crap, I don't think you look at old school coaches tend to, but I don't look at the young players. The leaders are supposed to be the ones leading and showing by example. If the rookie looks like crap in that game, it's because he's a rookie probably, and all he's seen, the examples that are being laid out before him are 10-year veterans that look even worse than he does. So I don't know that I think you throw out the performances of Ratu in that game.
November 30th last year, they made the Zadorov trade. We're November 15th today. Darren Dreger is talking about Barry Trotz in Nashville, Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh, Kevin Adams in Buffalo, and we've discussed and actually gone through those three teams as the GMs who are looking to make a move right now. Now, again, it may not be selling off parts in all three of these instances. Like, I don't think Buffalo wants to punt on the season right now after missing the playoffs for the last decade.
And the
Nashville
messaging
was a playoff team last year. They certainly operated like a team that was hoping to improve on its playoff standing in the summer, signing Brady Shea on defense, of course, Jonathan Marchessault and Stamkos.
The messaging from Kevin Adams in Buffalo is he's not willing to move the bright young pieces.
Well,
But then the definition is
what's the
bright young piece?
So, Byram, Dreger has told us about Byram in the past. Going into restricted free agency with Arb rights might be a difficult guy to re-sign, particularly since you have the two defensemen, Dahlin and Power ahead of him.
Yeah.
And in Pittsburgh, it could very well be a sell-off, a straight sell-off of pieces. So, those are the teams right now that are looking to get active. Is it potential for a hockey trade with Buffalo or Nashville? Be a little more surprised, but
yeah, maybe.
The bottom line, the bigger question, regardless of whether it's with these three teams or someone else, are you looking at a move from management here between now and December? Do you think we're going to see, we know they're early movers, do you think we're going to see a move of consequence between now and the 1st of December?
I would extend that to Christmas.
To the trade freeze?
I think they're open to it. I'm not saying it won't happen. I think they are open to it, but I think they are well aware that they don't want to seem desperate, that they don't want to be taken advantage of. So I think they're going to not appear hot and heavy on anybody lest they lose that trade.
Yeah.
But they'd be open to it.
The other thing I wonder, too, is prices are pretty high right now. I mean, you typically have to pay a higher price when you're getting a guy for 3/4 of a season as opposed to half a season or the final quarter at trade deadline. What's the appetite to pay prices for this management group after they went out, acquired 2 rentals last year, and watched them both walk for nothing, right? So we'll see.
I also do wonder, Matt, how close are they to abandoning ship on Vincent Desharnais and asking somebody to take that contract in return to open up more cap space? I wonder.
Yeah, we'll find out where he was. He wasn't at practice today. Some incredible stats about Connor McDavid, who gets his 1,000th point last night. Did you see some of this? He did it in 98 fewer games than Sidney Crosby, 189 fewer games than Malkin, and 211 fewer games than Alex Ovechkin. That's 2.5 seasons. It took him 58 games to get from 700 points to 800 points, 58 games to get from 800 to 900, and 58 games to get from 900.
Those are like Sedin-like levels of consistency.
Symmetry.
Yeah.
174 for the last 174 games. He has been just shy of 2 points per game. So just shy of 2 points per game for more than 2 seasons. And then there was this stat from Frank Saravelli. Wayne Gretzky is the fastest player to 1,000 points all time. Who's the second fastest?
Whew. I mean, it's not Mario, obviously, or else you wouldn't be so amazed by it.
It's Wayne Gretzky.
His second 1,000. Yes.
Wayne Gretzky got to his first 1,000 points in 424 games.
Yeah.
He got to 2,000 points in 430.
He really slumps over those second 1,000.
Mario took 513 games, and McDavid doing it as he did trails only Gretzky, Lemieux, and Mike Bossy in terms of
what was the number of games, sorry?
For Connor?
Yeah.
It was. Oh, do I actually have the number of
You don't have the number in front of you?
Actually have
yeah.
No, I don't actually have the number of games. I'll put that for Eason.
In the 5s, though, I would assume, right?
E's and O's for
Monday's
program.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to our menu. It's brought to you by Greta. Greta, a fantastic spot to catch all the games home and away. It is steps from the stadium, minutes from the arena, pregame, postgame. They got the great street food menu, the arcade that everybody loves, weekly drink specials. Check out Greta, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. We talked to JPAT. TSN CFL insider Dave Naylor is going to stop by because there is a whole lot of scuttlebutt running around with the BC Lions here. And the assumption is that there will be a change, a coaching change, that they just don't want to announce it here during Grey Cup week. I'm hearing Wednesday might be the day that the Lions come out and make some changes and announcements. Ryan Rigmaiden looks to be the new football chief here. We're sort of unsure of how all the titles are going to shake out, but their director of U.S. scouting, who had a hand in building this fantastic Winnipeg ball club when he was over there, looks like he is going to be the general manager or co-general manager. The head coach, Rick Campbell, looks like he could be on his way back home to Edmonton, where he grew up in the shadow of his father, of course, the CFL legend Hugh. And the scuttlebutt also surrounds former BC Lions head quarterback Buck Pierce, the offensive coordinator with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He worked with Rigmaiden in Winnipeg. Could it be that Buck Pierce is coming home to his first CFL franchise to be the new head coach after serving as an assistant on Mike O'Shea's staff? He is well credentialed now in terms of serving his apprenticeship.
It sort of feels like the Lions are also trying to douse all the little mini fires of rumors that are happening this week, because you're hosting the Grey Cup. You're not in it. And you don't want to make any news that takes away from the game. So it feels like they're trying to squash any sort of talk about this, but it seems also impossible to believe that any of this is not happening. So, yeah,
well, because the other thing here is I think when it all shakes down, and this may be something you hear about next month, I think typically the league has released this data in December, not November. But I do believe the BC Lions will be further over the cap this season than any CFL team has ever been over the cap. And it is the additions of Nathan Rourke and Mathieu Betts mid-season that will have contributed to that. Now, the way this works is you pay dollar for dollar for every 100,000 you're over, $2 for every dollar you're over from 100 to 200. My understanding is the Lions could be 300,000 plus over the cap, which means an extra $1 million for Amar Doman to have to eat, plus a forfeiture of a first and a second round draft pick in next year's Canadian college draft. Now, they're going to have a second round draft pick because they played the most Canadian snaps, and that's a reward that's been given out here. And I suspect they will likely get a first round pick for Vernon Adams in a trade. So I don't think they'll be vacated in those two first rounds, but I think there are going to be some significant penalties to the BC Lions here by way of the cap and overages that the new head coach and Ryan Rigmaiden and the general manager are going to have to deal with in year one. And look, it's not a done deal, but all signs are pointing at this stage to Rick Campbell, to Edmonton, and the Lions making a coaching change. So we'll see where that goes. Let's get to our Bet365 bets of the day. This segment brought to you by Bet365, proud sponsor, supporter here of Sekeres and Price. We're delighted to have them aboard. Where are you going, my dude?
I'm going to the Jake Paul Mike. I'm not going to that fight.
So I had a friend text me, where are you watching the Tyson fight? And for a moment, I was transported back to, well, I'm not even sure Tex was around. But look, you and I remember a time when Tyson Holyfield, there were a few others, but mostly Tyson Holyfield, I guess Spinks, was a stop the world moment, right?
My stag party was built
Buster
around
Douglas.
Tyson Holyfield.
Was it really?
Yeah. It was
Buster Douglas Tyson, of course, the great upset. But there was a time when the world stopped for a heavyweight championship fight, when you had a champion who of the talents of Mike Tyson. And of the ferocity and intimidation and reputation
of 28-year-old
and everything that Mike Tyson brought to the ring. I said to my friend, "Yeah, I'm not watching the Tyson. He's nearly 60 years old. He's fighting Jake Paul in bigger gloves than what professionals normally fight in to cushion the blow a little bit. It's 2-minute rounds, not 3-minute rounds.
Matt, you'd have to convince me this is on the up and up, and I am not convinced.
You're not convinced
I'm
it's
not
on the up and
convinced
up.
it's on the up and up. Anyway, I'm going to this game, the Grey Cuyp. And part of me wants to go money line on the Argos just because it's a big number, it's plus 350, but I'm going to be more realistic. I'm going to go chalk in this regard, and that I don't expect big numbers out of the Argos with Arbuckle in charge, and I'm going to take the under. It's 51 right now, and I'm going to take the under.
I looked at that myself. I just have trouble
I know
betting on an under of a game that I'm going to watch, you know?
But it means that the Bombers can get to 30 points. It's just I'm not expecting much from the Argos.
I'm going on the 111th Grey Cuyp game as well. And the Bombers have lost the last two with brutal fourth quarters. Said yesterday, I don't expect this leadership group of Bombers players, Caleros, Jefferson, and others, to make that mistake 3 years running. I think they get out early. I think they create some margin heading into the fourth quarter. So instead of laying 9.5 points and being susceptible to the backdoor cover, I'm going to go with the first half line. Winnipeg -6. And see if the Bombers can get out early. Gosh, my bet at halftime. Bada boom, bada bing. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Don Taylor, ladies and gentlemen.
Taylor, why don't you come around back here? Why don't you come around back here? We got a headset for him. Look at this. Don Taylor's here. What a nice surprise. I saw you glad-handing there. You still remain popular with your media colleagues. Get them a chair as well.
Welcome,
it's
sir.
okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it, guys. You have to call out.
Okay.
I can barely hear you right now.
All right. You're going to have to kneel down.
I think you have the audio guy from Czech here. I can barely hear you. We'll make do. We'll make do here.
How you doing?
Good. My son is interested in broadcasting. He's that's Quinn.
Hi, Quinn.
Quinn, how are you?
Yeah, and so I thought I'd bring him down here, and he watched our show today, but I thought I'd bring him down here and show how the real pros do it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
You can show him later.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're allowing that with everything that's happened in our industry.
Yeah, I know.
And you were fueling this dream of his. You're responsible
trust
for
me,
it.
We've had the talk. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I don't know what to say to him, honestly. Like, I've been in the business for a long time. Like, what the landscape is like now for somebody starting out. For me, and this predates you, Blake, but you went up north or you went to a small town and you paid your dues and you
I went to Saskatoon.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, of course you did. I remember when you did. Working with RJ Broadhead.
I did.
That's right. Yeah. But now it just, I'm not sure exactly what. So let him find out what it's all about, and maybe it leads to something. Who knows?
Don, there was 140, 150 people at the media party Wednesday at Mahoney and Sons, and I was astonished when Farhan and Naylor told us how many they were expecting, because media corps everywhere. Like, do you remember how big a media contingent at a Grey Cuyp used to be?
Yeah.
Like, every outlet in the country would send one or two people. Like, it was the single biggest gathering of Canadian sports media each and every year, and interest coast to coast, television ratings 5-6 million, all that.
Yeah, and just even post game interviews now, Matt. When you go and you do locker room interviews, when I was doing during the reporter days, you'd have to fight to try to get into a scrum. And
now it's Canucks staff fighting amongst themselves.
That's right,
inside the scrum.
Yeah, and or Canucks staff fighting with media.
There's that too,
but the numbers aren't there like they used to be, and it's a little bit different world.
The bank account, as a print guy, Don, I used to have to beat the bank of cameras, because if you were around the half moon of cameras, you weren't going to hear anything. And of course, you couldn't jostle the camera guys. Trevor Henderson give you an elbow.
Oh, Trevor Henderson.
Oh, my God.
Sharpest elbows in the biz.
Trevor was infamous. Mike Keenan loved Trevor. And we're talking about, for people who don't know, global cameraman Trevor Henderson.
Still on the gig.
Who is Sports Page's cameraman. He's born in Belfast, and you knew it if you ever got in the wrong side. But Mike Keenan, I saw Trevor get in a couple of fights, and not physical, but confrontations, and he loved it. That was the greatest thing in the world.
Quick thought on last night's game. How terrible was that?
You know what? I with Dakota Joshua coming back from cancer surgery. Jonathan Lekkerimäki's first goal, and Quinn Hughes getting hit like he did. You just thought there'd be like
Rally.
energy.
Yeah.
There was nothing. There was nothing in the building. It was boring. There was just nothing there. And you combine that with everything else that's happened on home ice, starting with what happened in game 1 against Calgary when they blew 2 3-goal leads. Really weird.
Yeah,
It's a really strange season. It's like, you know what this reminds me of? Maybe this is going too far, but it's almost like back in the Sedin's heyday. It's almost like, we'll call you in April.
I know.
I said that on the show today, Don. I can't believe how sort of blasé
the fans are too. The fans are like this too.
Well,
Maybe rightfully so.
No, but this like I thought there would be some degree of carryover from all the energy, enthusiasm, electricity of last year's Stanley Cup run. Let's remember they were cheered at the end of a Game 7 loss. So I thought you'd have at least a thread of that running through the home games early this season. And it seems like the whole market is just like, yeah, wait me in April. We're a playoff team again.
I know. So the guy, a couple of games ago, that threw his sweater on the ice.
Yep.
It took a lot of maybe he was ahead of the curve. Maybe he knew. Maybe he knew what he was doing.
I thought it was a drunken one-off, but you might be onto something.
I maintain that's a plan. That was an Oilers fan trying to drum up
maybe
the Canuck world.
Maybe, or the world's smartest man.
Yes,
one or the other.
Yeah. How's Lisa? How are the kids?
Very, very good. Very good. They're all out of high school and everything, so it's a bit
Are you
strange.
empty nester now?
No. I've wanted you.
They circle back.
They're boomerangs. They go out and they come back in.
Talk about times have changed. Like,
you're out.
Yeah, my dad bought me luggage at 18, so it's a little bit different now. We just can't afford to go.
We were
out.
joking. This looked like Blake's living room a few years ago.
Yeah,
all the children here.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Yeah.
Well, my kid just mentioned that he's 18 now. He's here, Quinn. And he just mentioned this is 10-year-old Quinn's dream.
Yes.
Like,
that's pretty cool here.
It is very cool.
Yeah. Did you get field trips like this when you were
No.
I couldn't believe that. Like,
there's everything. There's the mini zip line. There are the 2 big zip lines.
Yeah.
All these football drills they can do. And they're having all sorts of fun. There's curling over here.
Is there really?
Yes.
Curling. Gosh,
It's
haven't seen that yet.
very Canadian. It's
We've got a curler here. Mike.
So good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for stopping by. Continue to glad hand. Don Taylor, everyone. Donnie and Dollar. All right, where were we? Oh, we were throwing
a Davey Naylor.
Did I mention Bet365? Thank you, Don.
Yes.
Did I mention Bet365? Yeah, open an account today. Use code Nation when opening that account. Thanks to Mike Whittingham, everyone here at the McLaren's Grills Radio Row. At McLaren Grills Radio Row, the only officially licensed CFL barbecue grills. Go to McLarencustomgrills.com. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the football game. 2 hockey games. We'll talk to you on Monday. Dave Naylor is coming up next.